This is What If Deku from My Hero Academia was the man, the myth, the legend, Rex Splode. The best invincible side character. Don't debate me.
Spoilers, but like, oh my goodness, episode 7 of Invincible was so peak. But since that, it got me bringing that episode got me thinking about this one character I love. Everybody loves, actually, with his character development, Rex Splode. Now, I did actually make a what if a few months back on What If Deku was Rex Splode Part 1. This is a reboot, and I actually want to do all my reboots or redos and renditions of my old what ifs that I feel like I could just bring a new if to and make better. Because last time I look back on that recording of that video, I was super sad. I mean, I don't know why I was talking like I just got shot in the leg, or I just learned that my puppy got ran over like a sack of potatoes. Like, I don't know, like it got run over like a pancake. So I don't know, but I want to bring and redo a lot of these old what ifs I've done and make them better. You know what I'm saying? And if you guys have any suggestions of what I should do, what ifs I should do to make them better, go down in the comments. But enough of me yapping. This is What If Rex Splode, What If Deku were the same people, or What If Deku was Rex Splode reboot. So let's dive right into this fanfiction. We start our story off with Deku's origin and how Deku would come to be this character in the vast array of different possibilities and multiverses when it comes to a story. We start our story off in this universe, where events would lead Izuku Midoriya to become somewhat similar to Rex Splode. Let's dive into it. So we start with Deku. Deku wakes up from being born, basically. So Deku's born, and pretty simple, his life is horrendous off rip. His family is cheap or just straight up broke. And his dad is an alcoholic, his mother is a drug addict, and most of them pretty much sell people, scam people, or even steal, cheat, and lie to get their fix, to get money, and to live in a crappy, horrible, downright hideous part of the city, or part of Japan, really. So we see that Izuku, actually no, let's scratch that. Izuku's not from Japan. He is from straight up Detroit. We're gonna switch to Japan later though. But what happens is Izuku is overall just in disarray because he is basically, by the time he can walk, teach to steal, scam, and pretty much finesse people out of money. By the time Izuku is around 13, something very bad happens. Or something very good, depending on the end of Izuku's life and how this decision will change him for the better later down the line. Izuku is told by his family that he's done. Izuku's confused after one day he comes home and his family tells him this. His family says that the government gave them opportunity to sell him for $1,000 and they need the money. So, sorry kid, you're gone. And they don't even call him their kid. They don't even call him son. They call him kid and kick him out as the government picks him up and tells him that he's going to be a superhero. Now, Deku was born quirkless, and that's the main reason why his family taught him how to steal and finesse, since they couldn't make money off of him with him having a quirkless body. He couldn't do anything like rob people or do anything similar to that with force. So he had to be finesseful, he had to be smart, he had to be cunning, he had to be manipulative. And that's what they taught Izuku to be. Now, Deku's father basically kicking him out and selling him off to the government found interest in Izuku because of his finessement moves and how fast and how sleight of the hand he was. Now, Izuku's body was a perfect candidate for their new program, making super soldiers or making artificial quirks. They wanted to make something similar to what a specific type of hero down in the West had. A power that allowed him to pretty much charge up objects with kinetic energy and blow them up on command. And this power was very good when it came to assassinations and other plans and other pretty much powers like that, or other events and missions similar to assassinations, hits, and all sorts of other things. So they would take Izuku in. Them starring Project X. Project X, not Weapon X, but Project X would be mainly focused on making Izuku the very like first couple batch of artificial quirk um people, because it was other failed experiments. And we'll get into that later on with Deku's plot and storyline. We'll get into like all the scientists, everything like that within like the later episodes, because we're really going to be focusing on progressing the story. But there was a lot of backstory behind the Project X and everything like that. The Project X focuses on making Izuku and grafting a bunch of crap, a bunch of stuff, and basically ripping Deku apart and putting him back together. They're treating him like he's literally Rocket Raccoon. They're pulling Deku apart and reassembling him bit by bit. They first start with grafting his skeleton with a type of pretty much reinforced polymer alloy, a type of new metal they found by the discovery of a new quirk user that had the ability to pretty much morph metal. As this quirk user was around in his 20s, his quirk had some sort of manifestation since he had a seizure, and his quirk went haywire and he started to rearrange the atoms of an entire oil rig, turning it into a type of metal. And this metal was extremely rare and had a lot of capabilities to it. It was a metal very similar to something like adamantium or vibranium, but nowhere near as strong, but a lot stronger than titanium and other metal alloys. So it would be able to take a lot of punches, a lot of durability, a lot of heat, a lot of stress. His bones would be in perfect condition by the time 50 years after Deku's death. So his bones would most likely be incredibly powerful. Since they weren't as strong or as toxic as adamantium, it wouldn't kill Izuku. And it was also about 10 times lighter than aluminum. Not aluminum, but it was about the same weight as bones, maybe even lighter, about like a centimeter, I guess you could say like a centimeter lighter. I don't know, a liter lighter. I don't know, but basically it would be a weaker version of adamantium, and it wouldn't be toxic, and it would be extremely light, and would be coated around Izuku's skeleton, giving him a type of extra level of durability and swiftness, since his bones would be a little bit lighter, giving him the mobility he needed to be extremely athletic and also proficiently let's just say athletic. Like he could do somersault backflips, he could be as flexible as Daredevil, that type of flexibility. So besides that whole situation they did on him, and that was pretty much the first thing they did on him to give him a good basis for what they were going to do to him next. First, they started to craft, pretty much skin graft a lot of stuff, or muscle tissue graft a lot of stuff to his arms, to his body, and basically everything along that side. So his body would be charged up with these new experimental skin particles. Pretty much his skin could emit a type of energy that he can control that would allow him to blow up objects. Basically, his powers were extremely similar to Rex's, but the thing is, he could charge up anything with the touch of his skin on his, mental state, if his mental state is okay. So basically, if his hands were cut off, or he was tied up, he could literally put his head against the ground and charge it up with energy, pull his head back, and blow it up. So as long as his skin is exposed, he can blow up something. So it would make him a lot more versatile in terms of situations where his hands are preoccupied or he's away from anything to blow up that's out of hand reach. So he could probably kick something if he's barefoot and blow it up. Zuki would have the same amount of power as Rex Splode, and maybe even stronger with the years to come. But what happened after the surgeries, after the skin grafting, after ripping Izuku bit by bit and pinning him back together, Izuku would have scars, scratches, and tissue growth around his body. He would basically have the physique Izuku has near the end of My Hero Academia, with all these scars and scratches and rips and tears on his body and contusions. All these marks he had from using One For All, Izuku would have similar marks to it around his body. They were able to basically heal it a lot, them being more of like faint tattoos more than looking like actual scars. So after all this grafting, they would eventually put Izuku out in the field by the time he was 14. Izuku would start to kill, murder, and assassinate multiple head representatives of the presidential state for multiple different countries, and vice presidents, council members, all sorts of other things. And he would be pretty much kind of like America's Winter Soldier, him going after multiple different people and taking them out bit by bit. But soon the facade was going to be up because, surprise, surprise, the government actually wasn't behind this project. They turned this project down and pretty much kicked it off the books. I mean, like, shut it down 30, 40 years ago. And another organization was actually up and making this from Japan. So through this investigation, it was some Japan heroes that were sent to America to figure out what was going on because they heard tale of a man clad in all black and silver blowing up people and pretty much assassinate people with quick point blank accuracy and having probably the best marksmanship in the country. So Azawa Bloodsport or Hardened Blood, I don't know, I'll put his picture up right now. This guy, he was doing the training arc. I don't remember his name, but I do know he had a pretty cool quirk. He could control his blood and harden it. And a pretty cool quirk. But besides that, yeah, those two heroes would be sent over to figure out what was going on with him. Also, never mind, Miss Joke would replace this dude. Never mind. His would be a little bit too, let's just say, not really suited for the situation. So Miss Joke and Azawa would be teamed up together to investigate the situation alongside other American heroes as well. They would go after and they would try to figure out what was going down in America. And what would happen is, something completely interesting this time too. So we see Izuku running down a steep hallway after a man screaming for his life and yelling out, "Please, God, help me. Please, please." Izuku would have smirked under his mask a little bit, but not by joy, and not even by laughter. Izuku had his tendency to smirk when he was in tense situations. And Izuku, deep down inside, didn't want to do what he was told to do. He would track down the man and grab him as his wallet would fall out of his pocket, opening a huge array of pictures of his children, his wife, and his unborn son ultrasounds. Izuku would look down at the pictures and the man would start to scream for his life, saying, "Please, please, I have a family. I have a boy on the way. Please, don't take it. Don't, please." He would start to cry. Izuku looking at the man for the first time in his life, Izuku breaking through the mental barriers they put in him. The organization kind of Winter Soldiered him. They programmed him and pretty much psychologically broke him down to be their lapdog. And pretty simple, he was basically Winter Soldier, brainwashed basically. He would still be Izuku, but everything would be foggy to him. Everything would seem like a dream. Everything would seem underwater. He could never really deliberate what he was actually doing. But him seeing this man crying in his face, begging for his life, for the first time after doing this about dozens of times, Izuku would start to see through the facade, him losing his consciousness or him losing his focus as the man was able to break out and started to sprint off. Izuku, not wanting to do what he was doing anymore, let the man go. As a voice in his mask started to yell at him, telling him to move it, as the man would start to speak some sort of language, making Izuku lock back in and his consciousness, his morals, going straight out the window. Izuku would have grabbed a shuriken out of the back of his utility belt and chucked it straight at the man's forehead, charging it up with electricity or charging it up with energy, blowing the man's head clean off. Izuku would have walked over the man and would have set a match off, getting rid of the evidence or getting rid of his body, and also would have made a plan, blowing up multiple different key points of the building, collapsing in it about a couple minutes after he left the building, like 30 or 40 minutes. As Izuku was in the van, heading to his next drop state, going to, Japan for his next mission, what would happen is, Izuku would be stopped by, American hero by the name of the Unkillable or some bullshit. This is a crap 1 mil character, bro. Basically, he would have black hair and he would have a blue and yellow suits with white accents on it. Him being able to fly, superhuman durability, super strength, and also having the uncanny ability to heal from any injury and come back from the dead. He's a pretty top tier, like top 20 hero in America, in the My Hero universe, in this universe at least. So he would stop the truck, or stop the pretty much limousine or van, and Azuki would be told to run for it. Azuki would have ran out of the van, blowing up the van, getting rid of the evidence, since his mask would have told him to get rid of the evidence, and would have blown up the van extremely fast, seeing that the van got charged up with energy after like 5 seconds of Azuki grabbing it or touching it, and would start to sprint into the forest, since they did stop them in a pretty much driveway through the forest or through the countryside. So what would happen is, well, Azawa would have chased after him inside of the woods, going to tree and following Izuku. Izuku would start to sprint and going zigzag vertical ways, trying to figure out how to get out, as he knew it was a nearby drop point in the forest, and he just had to figure out where it was. He started using the stars to locate where he was going, and he was on his way on his mission. Azuki would eventually been stopped midway by Azawa's quirk. Azuki would have been pounced on Azawa, as Azuki would have grabbed Azawa, thrown him into a nearby wall. Now, since Azuki had this type of superhuman or newfound metal on his bones, he would be a lot more durable and a lot more harder to kill, just like how real Rex is. Mainly because they gave him a type of skin grafting that made him a little bit more durable than the average human. It also gave Azuki a little bit of an extra oomph to his kicks, punches, and physical ability. Besides Azuki being incredibly athletic and pretty much flexible, Daredevil level flexible, he would also have the somewhat similar strength of a super soldier. So something similar to US Agent or I can't remember his name, the Guardian from Marvel Comics. So it'd be similar to that level of superhuman or super soldier strength. He wouldn't be nowhere near like peak Captain America strength or like peak super soldier strength, like I can't remember his name. Like, he was the first black super soldier. We literally got him in like Captain America Brave New World and Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So like, I'm just confused. Hold up, what was his name? I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, shit. I don't know his name. Keep me in the comments. I know I'm black. I know I should know this. I know I'm a huge Marvel nerd. But Isaiah Bradley, damn, I'm tweaking. Isaiah Bradley, he wouldn't be nowhere near as strong as him. Because Isaiah was like an OG Captain America. Like, he was top tier. Like, he was him. He was like that. But basically, Zuki would be kind of a athletic, more super soldier strength, giving him his advanced athletic ability and being durable or more durable than any other super soldier. His durability would pretty much combat and give him his much needed extra inf, besides him being just basis superhuman, strong and fast. So Zuko can reach around motorcycle level speeds on foot. Actually, he can run pretty fast, low-key, faster than the average human, faster than the best athlete, faster than Usain Bolt actually. So around that fast. But he also had the strength, his like peak max strength feat, because we had to like scale him a little bit. I do that for all my buddies. I gotta scale them a little bit. His peak max strength would be similar around, like, I guess you could say, like I said earlier, US Agent. US Agent was like a bad mamma jamma, bro. He was 1v2ing the Winter Soldier, well, Bucky Barnes. He wasn't like that no more. But Winter Soldier and Falcon by himself, bro. And he was putting up a good fight. So I would say he's like around like 20-30% that strength. So nothing crazy. He couldn't go toe-to-toe, blow-to-blow with Pramazuku with all for one or one for all. But he is strong enough to go toe-to-toe, blow-to-blow with any other normal person that doesn't have some sort of like superhuman strength that's stronger than his. So he could one-tap Azawa with just pure physical strength if they're just boxing. And he would also be strong enough to actually break a person's jaw clean off because of his, well, superhuman skin grafting and all this other technology in his hands, making his hands the equivalent of pretty much getting slapped against the forehead with a concrete, like a literal a cinder block upside the forehead, encased in freaking titanium. It would be a extreme amount of pressure or force just coming to your freaking noggin. It would hurt like a bitch. But that's basically his power level. So he wouldn't be like super strong, but around super soldier strength. So we see how Zuku would have started to go toe to toe with Zawa after Zawa would have pounced on him. And Zuku would have started to throw kicks and jabs and flips, actually keeping up with Zawa's athletic ability and keeping up with him by pretty much, well, bar for bar, word for word, fist, kick, flip for flip. I mean, he's really keeping up with him. As I would be actually pretty impressed with Zuku's athletic ability. As I was looking at Zuku, since he was gifted these extra abilities, extra superhuman durability, strength, and all these other powers, they would all be chemical enhanced serums in his bloodstream on top of technology pretty much well grafted to his skeletal structure. So it wouldn't actually be a quirk. So Ozawa couldn't do anything against his quirk or his power. On top of Zuku having the artificial quirk in his bloodstream, giving him his superhuman strength, allowing him to move faster, especially with his lighter skeleton, would give him another, like, an extra edge on top of Ozawa. Now Ozawa looked at him as Zuku would have felt a little sluggish. Since they used serum, or like a super soldier serum, on Zuku, the super soldier serum was actually derived from stem cells from multiple different quirk users with increasing superhuman strength or physical strength enhancement quirks. So giving Zuku a perfected version of an artificial quirk in his bloodstream that was permanent, that would change his DNA structure in general, it gave him a quirk. Theoretically, it gave him a quirk. So this quirk would be halfway affected by Zuku's, or by Ozawa's quirk. So it would allow Zuku to get a little bit sluggish, by around 10% sluggish than his original, like, Winter Soldier level hand-to-hand fight combat speed. So what happened is, well, Ozawa would have got the upper hand, restraining Zuku, but Zuku would have grabbed the bandages, saying that's all you got, as he would have blown up the bandages just enough so they can get pretty much, well, taken care of without blowing him up too. So kind of something like a firecracker, nothing crazy. So Zuku would have started to run towards Ozawa after Ozawa would have lost his bandage. As Zuku and Ozawa would have started straight up, nothing like crazy, they would just straight up start boxing. I mean, Baki level, Naruto level fighting, just straight up hands. I mean, no talking, no nothing, just hands. Eventually, Miss Joke would have catched up with them alongside Unkillable, or I guess Unalivable, or whatever. This is off-brand version of Immortal. So Zuku would have been starting to get jumped a little bit. With his increased mobility, athleticism, and speed, he would have been keeping up with all three of these soups. I mean, he would be keeping up with them with supreme speed. Eventually, Miss Joke would land a clean hit on Izuku's face, knocking his mask clean off of him. Izuku would have came back with a kickflip back on his feet, as he would have looked at the group after the group would have stopped midway, seeing that he was just a kid. Ozawa looked at Deku, saying he can't be older. He can't be no older than 15. Around this age, Izuku was around 15, going on 16, right around this time. So Izuku was taking down government agents and all sorts of other things for around 2 years now. So it would be kind of strange for one Izuku's mental state. Izuku would have looked at the group and would have started to get a little bit more agitated, like him kind of acting like a wild dog or a wild animal cornered. He would start to act up, trying to do anything to get out of the situation. Him throwing multiple pellets, bombs, and all sorts of other things, throwing everything he had at them, blowing them up, but Ozawa would have been able to dodge out of them. The Immortal knockoff would have been able to grab and tank most of the attacks, and Miss Joke was flexible on her own and also trying to use her quirk on Izuku. Izuku started to laugh a little bit and would have fallen to the ground, as Immortal would have knocked him out, or off-brand Immortal, whatever. I'll call him I. So I knocked him out. So after that, what happened is they bring him to Japan, actually, to assess him, since, well, Izuku is now kind of Japan's government property, because he was made from the state money and tax money of Japan. So yeah, so Japan brought him back, and the government started to look at him, assess him, and figure out what they did to him. They chalked it up to them using a type of very outdated soldier reconstructive mental state technology. Put it simple, this was a technology they made years ago to assess and break down a soldier and make them mindless, make them do whatever they wanted, make a perfect soldier without morals, without human comprehension. And this was very well, kind of, and I mean extremely counterintuitive, because it would make the soldiers unable to go back into the world and make them forever a killing machine. They would lose all parts of their humanity eventually after the technology or chip that was giving them this mental brainwashing was taken out. After they would have restrained Izuku and would have taken his chip out that allowed him to be brainwashed by this unknown person that was working in cahoots with the Japan government, Izuku would have woken up out of his daze. Izuku would have been in severe therapy and talking out everything he did over the last 2 years. Him being sold off by his family to the government at 13, him starting to be trained and pretty much experimented on at around his 13 years, because he just turned 13, and then on his 13th birthday he was sold off. For the next year he was experimented on and mentally broken down. After that, he would have eventually started to put him in the field. They would have eventually put him in the field, started to have him killed by the time he was 14, and now he's 15. So he's been killing people, unaliving people, for around 2 years now. So Izuku was beyond broken mentally, but through intensive care and through a lot of months of therapy, Izuku started coming back to his old self and started to act a little bit, let's just say, obnoxious, bratty, and kind of not caring about people's emotions, acting somewhat exactly like Rex Splode from season 1, but soon that will change later down the line. So after that, we see that Izuku being back to his normal-ish self-mental state. We'll get back to the Winter Soldier level Izuku later down the line, once Izuku locks in, and once he has to like go back to his killing instinct, type shit. But anyways, we see how Izuku actually is just in therapy one day, as he is told by the government that he has a surprise for him. Over the few couple months, Aizawa actually did talk to Izuku, and eventually they did catch a type of kind of a brotherly love, or not brotherly love, but more like a parental type of affection for each other. Izuku saw Aizawa as a very wise man and also pretty chill. With his attitude, and also him kind of talking to Miss Joke as well. Miss Joke was also at some of his therapy sessions and was also helping him as well, because Miss Joke found interest in Izuku. He was a kid being tortured and brainwashed to kill people. She saw him as something she could help with. If her being at therapy helped him become better, she was going to do it. So after Izuku would have adopted some of the traits and humor of Miss Joke, on top of him getting a little bit more acrobatic training with Aizawa would eventually offer to kind of take in Rex, or Deku Rex Midoriya, or no, Izuku Rex Midoriya. That's Deku's real legal name. So in his continuity, so we see that I'm just gonna say Deku narration purposes. So Deku and Aizawa find a common ground, and they pretty much, Aizawa takes Deku in for a test trial to see if he wants to adopt him, but not telling him that just yet. So after Izuku moves into a type of penthouse, or like a pretty nice lavish loft in the middle of Japan Aizawa lives in, Aizawa tells him that this is a new place the government gave him, and he normally lives on the outskirts of Japan, since that's mainly where all his crime happens. But him moving back into the city because of his job, and pretty much him being a lot closer to UA, would give him the opportunity to ask Izuku this question. Izuku would be confused, saying, "What?" Aizawa said, "You have the potential to be one of the greatest heroes, even better than me." And that's not saying much, but still, you could be one of the top heroes with your skill, your determination, your prowess, everything, even your personality, which I don't enjoy Miss Joke teaching you a lot of those jokes she taught you. But you have potential, Izuku. You are greater than anybody I've seen. You have so much greatness within you, And I feel like you should put that towards being a hero, if that's what you want. I've thought about it a lot, Mr. Ozawa. And I want to become a hero. I always wanted to become a hero. I always looked up to them when I was stealing and fighting for my life on the streets, bringing money to the house, and being treated like a slave by my own parents. But I always looked up to heroes, and I always wished a hero would save me from my life, but then it never happened, and the government came, or so I thought the government came. They experimented on me, and they did things. But through all that, when I was under it, so when they brainwashed me, when they put all that psychological torture within me, I always thought maybe a hero could save me one day from this. Or either I would get killed by a hero doing this. But you saved me. You and Miss Joke and that other dude. It changed my life. You gave me the help I needed. You got me away from them. You did save me. And I think I want to do the same thing for other people around the world. I want to save people, and I want to make things right for all the lives I took, for all the people I got rid of. So that's what I want to do. That's good to hear, Izuku. So after that conversation, Izuku and Ozawa would have made a pact, and Izuku would be enlisted in UA. Izuku would have been on his way to his UA, as Ozawa would have told him that it's going to be his first day. And also, don't act crazy when you walk into your class. Izuku being confused, as we see that Izuku pretty much walks into class and sees, point blank, it's his adoptive dad's, or soon to be adoptive dad's, classroom. Oh my god. Now Izuku would have slapped his face saying, "What the fuck?" And we end off there. For at least this part. I ain't gonna stop right now, but what you think this is? Some light work? No. After the class would have been settled, Izuku would be introduced to a couple other classmates. Bakugo, which he thought was kind of a weirdo, but he had a similar power to him. It's just he was able to only blow up his sweat, not other objects. So he didn't have the creativity or the vast, pretty much potential Izuku had. Their powers were similar in terms of blowing up things, but very fast in the ways they blew up things in. Now, Izuku would eventually meet up with other characters and other classmates like Ida, and he would also find himself kind of bonding with, well, I can't you not. I think her name is Mina, right? The pink-haired girl. So Mina and, well, Izuku would have started to talk a little bit, as their personalities would start to clash a little bit, but them kind of finding a common ground. Them actually kind of like each other a lot, really. So they would start to talk a little bit. Izuku flirting a little bit, as I would have told them to chill it out and get a room, and tells the class that it took you 15 minutes to get quiet. What the actual... And he would start to kind of berate them a little bit, but him being nonchalant about it, as always. My nonchalant king! But we see that Izuku in the class is told to go outside. They may have passed the entrance exams, but they didn't pass my exams. Now, for the whole backstory, since Izuku was already trained, like he was probably outclassing everybody in terms of skill in the entire class off rip, pretty much the school council thought it was good, because they already saw the footage. The head council member, pretty much the head of UA, already saw the footage that they had on Izuku and his fighting, and pretty much 1v3 these top, like, literal legal, like, licensed heroes, including Ozawa. I mean, like, they literally low diffing all of them and going toe to toe, blow to blow to Ozawa, or with Ozawa. He already was qualified far enough, and his mental state was already off the charts, since he was already a class tier marksman, since he already used a bunch of mathematical equations to calculate his point blank accuracy and the wind pressure and everything along those lines. So his math, his writing skills, his reading, his tactical skills, his fighting advantages were already off the chart. So he didn't really need to be doing any type of entrance exam level thing. So that didn't really happen they just let him in through it, you know, just a little government sauce. You know, he would just let in through Aizawa and some, you know, help. But what happened is, and it's kind of new actually, this assessment is really just for the class, but mainly for Aizawa. I mean, mainly for Izuku, to see how Izuku is without the chip and without that mentality, that like kill all mentality. So we see that Izuku pretty much grabs the ball as he eventually is told the ball first, and Izuku uses his superhuman, you know, pretty much strength plus blowing up the ball just a little bit, pretty much charging up the skin of the ball, throwing it, and having the ball blow up midway, pushing it farther into the sky, making around, let's just say, like 300 meters up in the sky. So a pretty good amount of ball throw. So Deku would get a pretty good score. The long jump, Deku would get a pretty decent score actually. Him just going straight over it, nothing crazy. He was pretty already off-rip athletic. He can go toe-to-toe, just jump across buildings with minimal effort. If he had web shooters, he could basically keep up with Spider-Man in terms of swinging. So yeah. The race, Deku get around 3rd to 2nd place. But no, 3rd to 4th place, since Deku was already off-rip, incredibly fast with his super soldier level athleticism, but I'm also using his powers to blow up pretty much sand in his hands and pretty much blast it and make him propel forward the last like 6 feet of the race. So him getting a pretty good score, like 3rd to 2nd place or like 3rd to 4th place. So yeah, after that, Izuku would have done all the other tests. The grip test strength, that could get a pretty good score around like 3rd, 4th place. And overall, Izuku would get a pretty good score overall. And actually, it would be an extra test. Aizawa wanted to test people's fighting advantages. No one was really taught how to fight just yet, but he wanted to see what people had laid out in front of them. So for it, he wanted to see how Izuku would test or fare. So he picked the strongest person in terms of quirks in the group that go toe-to-toe with Izuku. Izuku would have gone into a fighting ring as the team, or pretty much a class actually, would have been confused. I'm like, hold up, we're sparring off rip, what? And they would have been saved by the bell. Aizawa would have stopped and would have said, we'll do this tomorrow, but a little bit better this time. So, class, the syllabus will be in the classroom, and you guys can get your way back home. After that unclimactic fight would have happened, after the fight, or after, well, not after the fight, but after the class would have saw the determination in Izuku's eyes after he got into a fighting stance, half the class would be kind of scared of Izuku, low-key. But Mina would have just looked at him saying, have a nice day, Izuku, and I see you tomorrow, okay? As she walks off. And Izuku kind of smiles a little bit, being interrupted by Aizawa saying, you like that girl? Aizawa being told by Deku that what are you talking about? And we ended up there. So yeah, I'll leave it up here, guys. I know I was yapping a little bit. This is probably like a 30-minute long video, maybe 20 minutes. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. And please subscribe. Because look at this. Please subscribe, man.